When the mind stops checking, it does not feel like a breakthrough. It feels like something quietly disengaging. There is no internal announcement. No relief that confirms the shift. No moment where you say, "This is it." The mechanism simply stops inserting itself between you and what is happening. For a long time, checking lived in the background. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was subtle and constant. Am I doing this right? Is something off? Should I feel more certain than this? Those questions rarely formed fully, yet they shaped the rhythm of your days. Each thought passed through quiet inspection. Each impulse paused for approval. Each step required a brief internal clearance before it could continue. You may not have noticed how often you delayed yourself, but you can feel the absence of that delay now. Not as excitement, not as confidence, just as space where interruption used to be. And that space changes more than you first realize. The checking once felt responsible, careful, mature. You believed that without internal verification, something important might slip. A mistake, a misalignment, a version of you that hadn't been fully considered. So you paused before speaking, paused before beginning, paused even before resting. Not long enough to call hesitation, just long enough to create friction. Life did not stop, but it stalled in small, invisible ways. Now something feels different. You respond to a message without rehearsing the tone. You begin a task without scanning your emotional readiness. You move without first confirming that movement is justified. It doesn't feel bold. It doesn't feel rebellious. It feels unremarkable. And that's what makes it noticeable. If this quiet shift feels familiar, stay with it. And if you value this kind of reflection, gently subscribing and liking the video simply keeps this space open for you again. Because something in you has already started moving, even if you haven't named it yet. Before, checking functioned like a silent checkpoint. A thought appeared, and you evaluated it. A feeling surfaced, and you interpreted it. An urge arose, and you examined whether it aligned with who you believed you should be. Every experience passed through review. That review gave the illusion of depth. It felt intelligent to monitor yourself. It felt safe to stay aware. But awareness slowly turned into supervision. Part of you was always stepping outside the moment to measure it. When the checking fades, you stay inside the experience instead of hovering above it. Presence becomes continuous rather than interrupted. You notice that actions complete themselves through participation. Conversations unfold without internal commentary dissecting every sentence. Decisions land without requiring extended internal negotiation. Nothing dramatic happens, but the fragmentation begins to dissolve. And without fragmentation, movement returns quietly. The most subtle change is not mental. It is physical. There used to be a small tightening before action. A bracing. A quiet holding of breath while you confirmed whether you were ready. Now breath stays open longer. You enter situations without pre-adjusting yourself emotionally. You allow contact first, interpretation later, if interpretation comes at all. Uncertainty still exists. It has not disappeared, but it no longer acts as a stop signal. You can move without resolving it. The mind used to believe clarity had to precede action. Now clarity often follows action, or sometimes it never arrives, and nothing collapses. This reversal is so gentle that you may only notice it in hindsight. You are already mid-step before realizing you never checked whether you should take it. And nothing went wrong. There was a time when motivation had to be confirmed before beginning. You checked whether you felt aligned enough, inspired enough, certain enough. If the signal wasn't strong, you waited. Waiting felt wise, disciplined, intentional, but it often postponed living. Now, beginning happens without negotiating your internal state first. You start, and motivation joins if it wishes. If it doesn't, you adjust. There is no moral weight attached to either outcome. The mind still speaks, but it no longer supervises. If you've been noticing this shift in yourself, this quiet permission to move without internal debate, take a second to like the video and subscribe. It helps these reflections continue reaching the right people without interruption. Because what's stabilizing inside you right now doesn't need drama. It only needs space. Over time, you realize the check has been absent longer than expected. Hours pass. Those days, conversations happen that once would have triggered internal review. Decisions are made without pausing to verify alignment. The realization arrives almost neutrally. I didn't stop myself there. Not pride. Not shock. Just recognition. The old belief suggested that checking prevented failure. That, without oversight, coherence would unravel. But repeated experience quietly disproves that assumption. You moved, and nothing collapsed. You acted, and the correction happened naturally. You engaged, and life responded. The mind begins to relax not because you commanded it to, but because evidence accumulates. Checking loses credibility. And when credibility fades, authority dissolves with it. Eventually, the opening moment becomes clear. When the mind stops checking, it does not feel like a breakthrough because nothing dramatic has occurred. Life did not accelerate. You did not transform into someone new. The interruption simply ended. You were the one pausing. Now that the pause has thinned, thoughts still arise, but they stand beside experience rather than in front of it. Reflection happens when useful, not habitually. Rest and action share the same permission. You are no longer preparing to begin. You are already inside what is happening. Life moves again, not because conditions improved, but because supervision softened into participation. And this does not feel like an achievement. It feels normal, like a rhythm that was always there, waiting beneath the monitoring. Nothing needs to be authorized. Nothing needs to be confirmed. You move when movement is natural. You pause when pause is natural. And the quiet continuity of that is enough.